In this video, I'm going to teach you 5 ways to develop attraction and turn up the heat on your first date. And look, I was inspired to do this video from one of my single female friends. She's hot. We have a platonic relationship. It wouldn't work if we started dating, but it's pretty cool to go out with her and get her feedback on dating. And so she mentioned 5 things to me of what would work with her, and she's out on a first date and that guy turning up the heat and things get pretty hot and heavy. So that's what I'm going to get into in this video. All right, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Kane. I'm the Silver Bachelor. This channel is 100% dedicated to dating advice for older guys. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and a notification button because I drop a video every day. All right, 5 ways to develop attraction and turn up the heat on your first date. And that's what I mean, your first date, okay? So these things that I'm going to explain, obviously there has to be mutual attraction, right? But you don't know when you first arrive and you're sitting down, right, if there's going to be enough attraction. So some of these things I'm going to mention is to actually test to see what that level of attraction is. So without further ado, all right, number 1, okay? Number 1, this is the most important thing you guys need to do on your first date, and that is never sit across from her, okay? That is critical. You need to sit beside her. So whether it's at the bar of the restaurant and there's stools and you sit beside her, which, by the way, side note, make sure the restaurant that you're at has backs to the stools, because most women don't like stools that are hard and that have no back to them, okay? So take a look at pictures online of the restaurant. So you're at the restaurant, you sit at the stool or in the stools, okay, beside her. Or if you have to sit at a seat, I really like those kind of bench seating seats or like pods or whatever, but make sure you sit beside her. So that's number 1. And the reason is because it's easier to touch, easier for her to touch you and easier for you to touch her when you're sitting beside her, okay? So that's number 1. Number 2 is obviously, I just mentioned touch. That's a great segue. That's number 2. Physical touch is critical on your first date if you want to develop more attraction and turn up the heat. And different people have different styles, okay? My style is I like to wait and see if she touches me first. Then I'll touch her back, all right? So you're laughing, you're having a good time, and guaranteed if a woman is into me, this is what she's going to do. She's going to laugh along with me. She's going to go, ah, you're so funny. And she's going to tap my shoulder, or she's going to rub my arm or something. She, I guarantee, is going to touch me in some way because she's attracted to me. Now, my approach is I like to wait for her to touch me first, then I'll touch her back. But what's interesting is in speaking to my friend, and by the way, this was yesterday. We went out for happy hour together and a couple drinks just to hang out. But purposely, I said, look, I want to pick your brain for my YouTube channel to get to understand from a woman's perspective more, like another perspective. And she said, okay, cool. So she said this. She said if she's attracted to the guy and he starts touching her first, she's totally okay with that. In fact, there's not really too much touching the guy can do. So that was interesting. Because I've heard from other women that guys could be a little too touchy-feely, and she just confirmed that there's no such thing as too touchy-feely if she's into you. Just like another girl that I was dating, and I asked her, I said, look, how do you feel about guys approaching you at the gym? And she's like, well, it's not harassment if he's hot. I'm like, okay, all right, fair. Okay, so number 3, and I'm just taking a look at my notes here because I made a lot. I want to cover some of these things in the topic. All right, number 3 is after the first date, right? The first date's coming to an end because you've been sitting there for a few hours. So then number 3 is you say this. You say, I don't want this date to end. That is a perfect segue for you guys to bounce and go to another place, right? That is important. Now, it could be her place, could be your place, it could be another restaurant, bar. This is what I like to do. So the first place I like to meet usually for happy hour Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Now, if both of you have to work early in the morning. This doesn't really, it's not going to pan out really if you want to keep this date going longer. So if you, in general, I don't like to have my first dates on the weekend because that's prime time for women, and I run the risk of date cancellations when it's a Friday or Saturday night. There's exceptions, of course. So if you want the date to go late, then I suggest you reserve that for the weekend because you don't know what her schedule is. The exception is, of course, let's say it's Thursday night and you say, oh, so do you have to work tomorrow? And she says, no. And let's say you don't have to work tomorrow either, then you can keep things going. Okay, so you say, I don't want this date to end, and you go to another place. Now, I always have a plan B in terms of another place that we could go to that's within walking distance, ideally. So, for example, I live in Atlanta, and there's this place that I will typically go for happy hour, and I have taken dates there. And it's a few blocks away to this swanky cocktail lounge where they play house music and they have a DJ. It's awesome. And it's a small kind of intimate place, and you can sit at the bar. It's super cool. And I've done that many times. Okay. So that's number 3. Number 4, right? At some point, whether it's at the first place or second place, you say this, I want to kiss you right now. Now, the context, right? You guys are touching each other, you're holding hands, she's got her leg on you or something. Like clearly you could tell she's attracted to you. And you say, I want to kiss you right now. And you need to follow up on that though. She's going to look at you and go, oh, really? And you say, yes. And you need to now go in and go for the kiss. All right. You don't have to say, I want to kiss you right now. But I like that. I've used it quite a few times. Sometimes this is what I've done. I would get up. Another option. I get up because I say, oh, I have to use the restroom, but I'll be right back. And then she says, okay. I get up. I look at her. Boom. I land a kiss. Then I stop and I go to the restroom. She is going to go crazy because you've just kissed her. It was hot. And now you've left. Right? She's going to be thinking of this once you come back. And then when you come back, you don't kiss her again at that moment. And you just say, so how did you like that? And she's just going to, it's that teasing, right? She's going to be really excited about. So number 5 is no surprise. At this point, you've landed a kiss or you've kissed her a few times, right? Things are getting hot and heavy. And you say, hey, look, would you like to have a nightcap at my place or yours? Right? So maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, but that's okay because you've nailed your first date. She's into you. You guys have been touching a lot. You've kissed, and the date has gone for quite a while, which, by the way, a little side note, I watched this other dating coach YouTuber the other day, and she was like in her 60s, and she says the 9 rules for your first date. And so right away, that's a red flag when a woman has rules and she talks about rules. So then she goes on to say, your first date should not be any longer than 90 minutes. So I asked my friend this, I tell her this, right? And I was like, what do you think? She's like, if I'm into him and he's hot, most importantly, I'm into him, time does not matter. So just keep that in mind, guys. Like, don't fall into this trap of rules. And if there are all these boundaries and rules around your first date, take that as a sign that she's actually not into you. But I hope you like this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time.